What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 74 of the Super Grapple Bros podcast about two brothers who are former WWE employees who actually like to watch wrestling and play video games. It's two things that we enjoy. We talk about it here on this podcast every single episode. Unfortunately, there's only just one brother, myself, Murpho, this week, talking about everything by myself. For the most part, this is the NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool episode of the show. As I mentioned before, number 74. We're going to be talking about NXT UK TakeOver, going over all the matches. Also going to be talking about a bunch of news regarding a whole bunch of stuff, including NXT UK, including The Elite, AEW, Kenny Omega, Royal Rumble is taking place, new matches in NXT TakeOver, Phoenix is taking shape, and then there's a lot of stuff in gaming that's happening. Bungie separated from Activision, and lots of other stuff. The Division 2 is going to be going on to the Epic Store as opposed to Steam, and a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Hello to Big Stupid in the chat calling me out for my butt chin, which I got thanks to DMurph, who is not here to atone for his sins. Funny story for you, those of you who do not know of this. Back when DMurph and I were teenagers, I said something to tease him, and he had a soda can in his hand, threw it at me, hit me in my chin, split my chin open, had to go to the doctor, put butterfly stitches on my chin, and the resulting dent and stitching and healing of the skin resulted in a butt chin that I now have. So there you go. There's a little bit of story there brought to you thanks to Big Stupid and that reference. Anyway, I don't think you guys were here to hear me listen to me talk about, little scraps that me and DMurph used to get into when we were younger. We're here to talk about wrestling, and although DMurph is not here physically to talk about NXT UK TakeOver, it's a mouthful to say because you're so used to saying NXT TakeOver for other stuff, but NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. He, however, emailed me his thoughts and notes on all of the matches that took place. So the way that we're going to do this review for this week is I'm going to read off his thoughts on every single match, and then I'm going to respond with my thoughts, and then once we get through everything, we'll roll on to the news. Unfortunately, there were no predictions this week because I had completely forgot with everything that's been going on with Wrestle Kingdom, AEW, the Royal Rumble coming up, TakeOver Phoenix. I knew that TakeOver Blackpool was happening, but we did not realize that it was taking place so soon, so we did not have time to get in predictions. We didn't even make predictions for the show last week. We were so out of the loop on it, unfortunately. So there's no prediction announcement. There were no viewer predictions for this week, so sorry about that. However, let's go ahead and let's get into NXT TakeOver Blackpool, NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. Anyway, the first match of the night was the Tag Team Championship match to crown the first ever NXT UK Tag Team Champions, and that had Mustache Mountain, which was Trent Seven and Tyler Bate versus, why don't I have my stuff up here? Oh God. Man, I am just, you would think that I'd be completely set up, but NXT UK TakeOver results. We're going to type that in there because I do not remember the name of Zach Gibson's partner. They faced Liverpool number one, Zach Gibson, and I think it was James Drake. Yes, it was James Drake. I remember just as the results showed up. That's my own fault. So yeah, it was Mustache Mountain versus Zach Gibson and James Drake for the NXT UK Tag Team titles, and Gibson and Drake actually won the match. This was a really good match, but again, before I get into my thoughts on it, I will get into DMurph's thoughts. DMurph said about the tag title match, he said it was possibly his favorite match of the night. It was a nice homage to the British Bulldogs by Mustache Mountain with their gear. If you didn't notice, their gear was basically like the old school British Bulldogs, except instead of having the Union Jack over their butts, they had their Mustache Mountain logos. Lots of good spots, says DMurph, including the double airplane spin and the suicide dive doomsday device to Bate. The double airplane spin showed the strength that Tyler Bate has, given the fact that he's really not the biggest of guys out there, and I do agree with DMurph. I thought the suicide dive doomsday device was gross. It was a great reversal. It looked like Tyler Bate died, and the moment that happened, you kind of knew that Gibson and Drake were going to win. You were like, there's no chance in hell Trent Seven's going to survive this now, but This was a great match. DMurph says that he's happy with the win by Gibson and Drake. He loves their tag finisher. Also, he says that he really likes the look of the tag belts, which I agree. I like the design of the tag team belts for NXT UK. And I really enjoyed this match. Lots of great back and forth, good selling, really cool near falls. I was shocked at the fact that, if I recall correctly, that it was, I believe, that Gibson actually kicked out of Trent Seven and Tyler Bates' finisher, but it was also good in protecting them because at the same time, Seven's arm had been worked really well, so he couldn't get the full clutch and the full Nelson from the clothesline. Really cool match. I really dug it. I agree with DMurph that it was probably one of the best matches of the night. And fun fact, it was actually the only match of the entire show. Spoiler alert for those of you who are watching this to know who won. You'll know now from whenever I just mentioned who's in the match. But this was the only match where the heels actually won the match. Faces won throughout. So I think this is I feel like this booking decision was made because you would assume that Mustache Mountain would be the first tag team champions, and it would be weird to have the faces win every single match of the show. Big Stupid going back in the predictions, circling back to the predictions. Big Stupid says, so your name gets a credit on Saturday night, Sunday Night Football, not Saturday night, Sunday Night Football. And it was on Football Night in America, which is the Sunday Night Football pre-show, actually. So I'm going to correct you there. And now you're a big deal. You're a big deal to make predictions. I mean, I was a big deal before. I was a big deal when I got my name credited on Olympics. I was a big deal when I, made Up, Up, Down, Down for WWE. I've been a big deal before. I've worked WrestleManias. I've been a big deal for a while, Big Stupid. But no, seriously, like, haha, very funny. I'm sorry we couldn't do predictions. It was really cool to get my name out there, though. Anyway, I'm going to go back to NXT TakeOver. UK TakeOver. The next match was supposed to be Travis Banks versus Jordan Devlin, but Devlin attacked Travis Banks, as we saw in a video segment before their match when Banks actually got to the hotel in Blackpool, and then he attacked Banks before the match could even start. Banks was too hurt to continue. So Johnny Saint and, oh God, why am I blanking on his name? Sid Scala, who has found a really nice place as kind of like the assistant general manager for NXT UK. They both came out and they were like, oh, we thought you were going to do this, Jordan Devlin. We expected this of you. So we came up with a backup plan. And then you got what was quite possibly, I'm going to say probably definitely, was definitely the biggest match of the night, or the biggest pop of the night, and that was that Finn Balor returned to the UK, and came in as Travis Banks' replacement for the match versus Jordan Devlin. And the great touch about it is not only was it Finn Balor gets a chance to shine on the UK stage, but Finn Balor trained Jordan Devlin, so it was a great master versus apprentice match. Now I'm going to jump into DMurph's notes. DMurph says that he was super shocked by Balor being a part of the show, but very happy. I think that's the sentiment that everybody in the arena and every single fan who watched this show could agree with. DMurph thought the match could have gone a little longer, but a good match for the length of it and the history behind Balor and training Devlin. Hopefully this leads to more stuff for Balor on the main roster, but we'll see. Only complaint was that Travis Banks didn't get to have a match. I agree. I agree that the only complaint was Travis Banks. Well, I would say that, yeah, it's a shame that Travis Banks didn't get to have a match in this takeover. At least he was a part of it. I would say I actually disagree with DMurph on this. While I like the fact that Devlin and Balor went the distance, there's a reason that, well, Devlin is Balor's apprentice, so we would know enough about him and about Balor to be able to hang with him. I kind of felt the match went too long, for the sake that you have, no offense to Devlin, he's a great superstar, he does very good work. I really enjoyed this match between him and Balor. I thought it was really good. My only thing is that I think when you have somebody like Finn Balor, who's been NXT champion, who's been on the main roster for a long time, who was the first ever Universal champion, say what you will about how he's been booked in the last year. He still was the first ever Universal Champion, and he's facing an NXT UK superstar who hasn't won any championships, because who hasn't won the NXT UK Championship. When you think about it, like, technically in traditional wrestling or even WWE booking, this should have been a squash match. Balor should have just destroyed Devlin. He should have, like, when he went for the coup de grace early, I thought, like, okay, this is it. They're going to squash him. Makes perfect sense. But no, they actually let Devlin get some more time in. So I'm okay with it. I still think it went on a little too long, even though DMurph was the opposite mindset. It was really good. It was a really nice rub on Devlin, though, to let him be able to hold his own against Balor for so long. And it was nice to see Balor appear in the UK show and get a nice long match. Like DMurph said, I hope this is a sign of, like, the main like, those on Raw and SmackDown, or the writers, having faith in Balor to be able to go be an ambassador, call back to his roots for NXT UK, and that it'll translate to better stuff for him on the main roster. He's been getting booked pretty well the last couple months, as opposed to over the summer or in the spring. So hopefully this is just a continued momentum for Balor on the main roster. Big Stupid disagrees with my claim that Finn Balor was arguably or definitely the biggest pop of the night. He says the biggest pop came after the main event, which I kind of agree. That might be that probably rivals Balor, but from when I was listening, because I tried to listen for that pop at the end of the main event, which we'll get to when we talk about the main event, I felt like the pop for Balor was bigger, although the pop after the main event was huge. Though I definitely can concede to the fact that that pop might have been as big, if not bigger. Just my opinion, from what I could tell from listening and from my memory, I thought that the Balor pop was bigger. Big Sue said that I think the mentor thing allowed it to go a little longer, and I agree with you there. I think the fact that that Devlin was a student of Balor allowed him to not get squashed. But at the same time, I think the match was like a good 15, almost 20 minutes long, and I felt like it could have been a good 10 to 15. I feel like they were really pushing it. I think it went like, I don't feel like it should have been, like, part of me thinks that it could have been a squash match, straight up squash match. But again, like I mentioned before, the whole mentor thing, teacher, apprentice kind of thing is okay for it going longer. I just feel like it shouldn't have been. Like, it felt like it was long, and there were moments where it felt like Balor, you never knew that Balor was going to lose, but you felt like, okay, they might be selling that Devlin might actually, like, make this really close. And I don't know if it needed to go that long. I feel like it went, like, just a couple minutes too long. I think a 10-minute match would have been fine. I don't think it should have been an outright squash when I just think about everything, but I think, just a good solid 10-minute match. And yeah, Big Stupid agrees. Could have been a little bit tighter. Yeah, that's how I feel. Like a little bit tighter, a little short, maybe a little less shine on Devlin, but not like an outright squash match. But still, I enjoyed it for what it was. Those are just little nitpicks. Next up, this might have been one of my favorite matches of the night. I loved the tag title match. I love the main event, but I just love Dave Mastiff. And Eddie Dennis is a good heel. So we had Eddie Dennis versus Dave Mastiff. Both Eddie Dennis and Dave Mastiff were previously undefeated until they met up against one another in NXT UK. It was undefeated streak versus undefeated streak. Mastiff beat Dennis. It caused Eddie Dennis to snap, and he wanted to get at Mastiff again and take away Mastiff's undefeated streak like Mastiff took away his. So they set up a rematch where it was no disqualification, no DQ. So let's go to the DMurph notes. DMurph says about Eddie Dennis versus Dave Mastiff. He said it was a very enjoyable no DQ match. They did not hold back with the kendo stick shots at all. Also, like the exposed ballroom floor during the match. I like that too, and I love how that came into play later on in the match. With the, when Kennedy used it, it was called the Green Bay Plunge. I can't remember what the actual move is into the senton on the ballroom floor. That was gross. That was awesome. He thought that Eddie Dennis stole the wobbling legs lifting Mastiff too much, but I understand why. I kind of disagree with that. I think that wasn't selling. I think that was legit, because yeah, Eddie Dennis is a tall dude and he's kind of strong. Like he's a big man tall wise, but I mean, I don't know how much he can deadlift, so I don't know how much of that was selling, because Mastiff, He's not a tiny dude. He is 320 some odd pounds. So I got to imagine even somebody of the size of Eddie Dennis would have difficulty lifting him. And I'm not entirely 100% sure that him wobbling his legs was actually him selling. It might have actually been him trying to struggle to keep Mastiff up. So I don't know. I don't know what DMurph was trying to say by that exactly. So I don't know if he meant selling or he thought that it was a little ridiculous, but I don't know. He liked the finish, even though he figured it out as soon as the table came into play. I think everybody knew that once the table went into the corner, that Bomber Dave Mastiff's cannonball into the corner, I can't remember the proper name of it, was going to put away Eddie Dennis. It was still a really cool finish. I liked that finish. The second the second I saw that there, it was awesome. And also, again, like, Dave Mastiff is such an athletic dude for somebody of his size. It is unbelievable. I want to see Dave Mastiff go on and do great things in WWE. I want to see him go to the main roster and do great things over there. Eddie Dennis, I'm not sure what the future may hold for him, but he's definitely got a solid spot in NXT UK. He is very tall, and his height and his size make him intimidating, and I like his heel character. Overall, again, from a fun perspective, I think this was one of my favorite matches of the night, and I enjoyed it very much so. DMurph as well. Then we move on. Before we move on, Big Stupid also agrees. Those guys are huge. Moving on to the NXT UK Women's Championship match of Toni Storm versus Rhea Ripley. In my opinion, I feel like this was probably the low point of the show, but only as far as the fact that I think this show was amazing and great to begin with. So, like, low point as in, like, this was maybe a 2.5 to, we're going on, like, a 4-star scale. Or if we're going on, like, a 5-star scale, this was maybe, like, a 3 to a 3.5 star match, where every other match was probably 3.5 to 4.5 stars. So it's like, it was a good match. It wasn't a bad match, but it was just when it's put up against all the other matches on the card, I feel like it just didn't. It was the least good out of all of them. Let's get to DMurph's discussions on it. He said he thought it was a good match between the two of them. It seems like this is starting to build as the kind of story where the two of them will always be in competition with each other throughout their careers. And this match will always be referenced along the way. I can see that happening. Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm both very good. Could be the beginning of a really long rivalry, as Murpho put out. He said that he believes Storm kicked out of the ripcord twice, and if that's right, not a huge fan of that, but still enjoyed it overall, and Toni deserved the win. She did not kick out of the ripcord twice. She reversed it once into a crossbody and then kicked out of it once. And Rhea Ripley kicked out of Storm Zero once. I think it was good in protecting both girls. They were both able to kick out of each other's finisher once. Obviously, I think these two are going to be the stars, the headliners of NXT UK, unless Dakota Kai comes around for a little while. I think Isla Dawn has some promise, but I don't think she's at the same level as Toni and Rhea yet. I think Toni definitely deserved the win. I think she's had much better matches in the Mae Young Classic than she did this. I think the same can be said for Rhea Ripley. I don't think this was the best match that either of them have had in WWE, let alone their careers. Hopefully they'll have better matches against each other in the future. It was an okay match. It was a good match. As Big Stupid is saying, it was a surprisingly blah match. I will agree. I was surprised with how this was a good match, not a great match. I was expecting these two to tear it up. And they didn't tear the house down. It was still a good match. I expect better from them in the future. So bottom line though, they're both really good wrestlers. I'm sure they'll have better matches. This is a nice little next step in their rivalry, and Toni definitely did deserve this win, especially with everything that she's done throughout her career, and especially recently in WWE as the recent Mae Young Classic winner. Moving on to the main event of the evening, in which a couple of deaths almost happened by accident. And we'll get to that. Joe Kofi versus Pete Dunne for the NXT UK Championship, or just the WWE UK Championship. DMurph says, It's a very good match. Lots of good spots showing up Kofi's strength and endurance, as well as Dunn's endurance and ingenuity. My only complaint is that this match went on dangerously long, as into the point where they could have died from attempting that top rope spot and fell off to the floor twice, which seems to be from Kofi losing his balance with how exhausted he was. Now I'm going to stop there. Well, actually, let me keep going because this next point will probably tie into what I'm going to talk about the full time. Other than that, I love the story of two guys giving everything they have and risking it all for what they both believe belongs to them. Also, I loved the finish of a bitter end directly into Dunn's submission. And then I'll get to the next stuff after that. I agree with DMurph. I loved the psychology of this match. How it just became these guys beat the hell out of each other to the point to where they were just selling pure exhaustion, and just fighting spirit was the only thing that was allowing them to stand up and start to strike each other. I loved the part where they had just hit a couple of big spots. They got up to either corner, just stared at each other, yelled at each other, and just started going blow for blow. And that even though Dunn overtook Kofi into the ropes, that he just got exhausted from throwing punches, practically collapsed, was out on his feet on top of Kofi. Going back to that one big spot that DMurph mentioned, it looked to me like what the plan was there, and it was scary. Like, the second I saw Kofi loses balance the first time, I'm like, oh my god, that wasn't supposed to happen. I hope he's okay, because falling from that height with nobody to protect you, you can seriously injure yourself. I don't think you can die, like actually suffer injuries enough that could kill you, but definitely hospitalize you and sideline you for a while, and maybe cause the type of injuries that could potentially end your career. Luckily, Kofi was okay, but then they tried it again, and Kofi lost his balance the same way again. And props to Pete Dunne. He seemed to realize it this on the second time and decided to jump with him, like kind of pretend to lose balance and jump with him and almost try to guide him into the barricade to try and make it look like it was kind of a planned spot, and also to kind of help Kofi break his fall that time. So props to Dunne on that. But it seemed like what they were trying to do was for Pete Dunne to hit a top rope bitter end on Kofi, that Kofi was maybe going to kick out and go straight into Dunne's submission, like an avalanche bitter end. But it seemed like once Kofi tried to get himself into like a standing position where he was on that top turnbuckle for Dunne to maybe try to even lock in the pump handle for the bitter end, he lost his balance both times, and it was very scary. It's probably one of the That's probably one of the scariest things I've seen in wrestling for a while, probably since that one jerk in Mexico threw a cinder block on at the back of somebody's head. I mean, the difference with this moment is that it was neither guy's fault. Dunne did his best. Kofi just lost his balance, and in the second attempt, Dunne did his best to try and protect Kofi as Kofi fell. Very scary. Almost kind of ruined the momentum of the match, but the match was so good that it kind of overcame that unfortunate, terrifying botch. And again, these guys beat the hell out of each other. Kofi's strength and intimidation, the way that they told the story in the ring, it was just, Dunne is just this badass who just will not quit, will not go down, will not cower to anybody, and just Kofi is this menacing, big, scary, strong dude. So I loved the match. I thought it was great. It started off kind of slow, but once they got into the point to where they were basically throwing haymakers at each other and becoming absolutely exhausted, that was when it got great. And they also had that really great exchange that went into, can't remember what Dunne did, but eventually Kofi turned it, reversed something, turned it into the punch, and then into the discus clothesline, which I believe Dunne kicked out of. I loved that spot. One of my other favorite things was the second time Dunne hit the bitter end, because Kofi kicked out of it once. The second time he hit it, you see it all the time where the one guy will hit his finisher and then will either just lay there or eventually try to roll over and cover the opponent. And it's been so long, if I've ever seen it before, where the opponent knows he's out on his feet, knows that he won't be able to kick out, and sees the person try to reach over for the pin and just rolls out of the way. I love that. I thought that was smart. I thought that was great storytelling and good psychology and stuff you don't really see all the time in wrestling that much. Before I get to the rest of DMurph's comments, let me get to the chat. Pete Big Stupid says, I'll get to your spot about your thing about you think at that point you call a different spot. Do you mean the first time they attempted it or the second time? Because normally in the first time, if they've tried it and practiced it enough and they were confident enough they could pull it off, they'd be like, okay, that was a freak accident, let's try it again. And I mean, at the second point, I think that was the finish, like an avalanche bitter end into maybe the submission. So they had to go call an audible into being where it was just, okay, I'm just going to have to bring you in, hit the bitter end, you're going to kick out, and I'm going to go into the finisher. That's just what's going to have to happen. Or where Kofi had to hit this modified attempt at the bitter end, which was also kind of awkward after the first time. Yeah, like I said, I feel like if they were confident enough in the spot, and like say they maybe practiced it before, or maybe they had done it with each other in a match at another UK indie show, maybe they're like, okay, that's a freak accident, we'll try it again. But then once you screw up a second time almost the same way, you can't go back a third time, and that's why they had to improvise the finish at the end there. Other thing Big Stupid said, do you think NXT UK is third behind WWE and NXT? Like, will people from UK have to go to NXT before they go to WWE, or go straight to WWE like Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, or Storm? I will actually answer that later, because somebody actually asked this same question to Triple H in an interview this week, and he had an answer that was very intriguing that we're going to talk about once we finish up talking about this show. Also, hello to Cam in the chat as well. How is it going, buddy? All right, rest of DMurph's notes, which has to do with what happened after the match. All right, so after Pete Dunne won, he's celebrating in the middle of the ring. The copyright, like, end of show thing goes on. The promotion of the Nigel McGuinness documentary goes on, which, just sidebar, was really goddamn good. I highly suggest you guys watch the Nigel McGuinness documentary on the WWE Network. It was really good, great, and shockingly, not only did they use stuff like footage and stuff from ROH, which they've all done in documentaries before, this is the first time I've actually seen them get permission and work with Impact to have footage and photos and talk about somebody's career in Impact Wrestling and TNA Wrestling, and they did that for Nigel McGuinness when he was Desmond Wolfe. So that was really cool to see guys like Kurt Angle and AJ Styles and Mojo open up about, and McGuinness himself open up about his time in TNA. So like, it's really cool to see that happen for the first time, and also just the Nigel McGuinness' story is a tragic one, but it has a somewhat happy ending, because he's now on the commentary team. So again, highly recommend you guys check out the Nigel McGuinness story. Anyway, after the promotion logo for that documentary shows up, music hits. The Tron is nothing but white. And then what, like I said, could arguably rivals Balor for the biggest pop of the night, out walks Walter. Walter makes his shocking debut. The ring general Walter comes out in his Generalissimo coat, walks down to the ring, stares down Dunne. Kofi tries to get back into the ring. Walter just boots him in the face, kicks him out of the ring, stares down Dunne, does his the stance of a general and military officer with his arms around him. Walter has arrived. Stares down Pete Dunne. Dunne does his knuckles to the jaw with the title in his mouth pose. And Walter's like, all right, mate. All right, I'm going to get you soon. And walks off back into the back. Cut credits, cut to black, whatever kind of expression you want to use. End of show. What a moment. I have not seen Walter wrestle yet. I knew what he looked like. I had seen like a couple short clips. I had never seen a full match of Walter before. I did not know that Walter was this goddamn big and this huge. But you can just tell just by seeing Walter walk out, this man just oozes charisma. He didn't have to say a single word, and just by his body language, how he walked, how he carried himself, you were getting goosebumps. And this is from somebody who's never seen a Walter match, but I know that he's created a ton of buzz in the indies, and I am excited to see what he is going to do in NXT UK. I cannot wait to see him have an NXT UK championship match with Pete Dunne. He tweeted, he sent out a tweet along that went along with a GIF or a video clip, the WWE post that just said "arrive" with a exclamation mark. And let me get to, we kind of did this in reverse. Let me get to DMurph's notes on Walter. DMurph said that he is a big fan of Walter, and he said also, this is after all the comments about the match, also was a big fan of Walter making his first appearance and staring down Dunne and kicking Kofi out of the ring. And I'm excited for that. And if you're interested in my thoughts on another storyline for Walter, check out my interaction with TJP on Twitter last night. DMurph actually responded to a thing on that Walter, or a thing that TJP posted. TJP made a tweet last night saying that he's going to get a group of cruiserweights to try and take out Walter. And DMurph actually said that he is actually completely for a Avengers-esque teaming up of all of the 205 Live faces and whatnot to go ahead and try and take down and battle Walter as if he's Thanos. That's what he said. Big Stupid says, I don't watch a lot of non-WWE stuff, but I watch Walter. He's amazing and a fantastic heel. I can't wait. I've heard a lot of good things about Walter. Heard a lot of good things about him, but I haven't been able to catch a match of him, so I'm excited to see what he can do in the ring. And just by seeing his attire, I love his attire. Just seeing the way he conducts and carries himself and the kind of charisma and confidence he has on camera, like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see what he can do. And I feel like just Walter, just based on his size, I think he's got big things. I think big things are in store for him. I think he's going to be the one who finally takes the championship off of Pete Dunne. Maybe not in their first championship match, but if they have a rematch, he's going to be the one to do it. What is up, by the way, to Hugo Gonzalez in the chat, who I haven't seen in a while here on Twitch. How you doing, man? Things are all good for me. I hope things are all good for you, my man. And that is going to do it for the comments on NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. I thought it was a really good show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now we finally have a takeover on our belt. Now we have established characters and whatnot in NXT UK. Now I feel like NXT UK, the show, is going to start rolling on, going to start picking up steam now that we actually have storylines, we have established characters and all of that. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future. Really good show. I don't know if it compares to the latest NXT takeover, standard NXT takeover standards, but man, that tag title match was great. That UK championship match was great. Finn Balor showing up and had a solid match with Devlin. Dennis versus Mastiff was fun. Pretty much the only down note I would say of the entire show, aside from the scary moment in Kofi versus Dunne, from the top rope, was just that Tony Storm and Rhea Ripley didn't live up to maybe like the high expectations that we all had set for that match. All right, so with that reviewed, let's go ahead and let's get into the news. We're going to start talking about stuff that happened. So right before the first bit of news I want to get into in the WWE is that the WWE announced just before TakeOver Blackpool that the WWE has built and launched and created a state-of-the-art performance center for the UK. So WWE now has a UK performance center. Looks very similar to the regular NXT performance center by Full Sail University in Florida, if you've ever seen videos of that. Instead of 3 rings, it's 2 rings. They still have areas for content creation. Looks like they will still have a promo room. They will have weightlifting stuff. Strength and conditioning equipment, all of that. I'm going to go ahead and read details from the WWE release as soon as I take a swig of water. And I quote from WWE.com. WWE announced the opening of the groundbreaking UK Performance Center, its first world-class training facility outside the United States, and a significant step in WWE's efforts to localize its content around the world at a press conference today in London. With 17,000 square feet, 2 training rings, world-class strength and conditioning equipment, and versatile content creation infrastructure, the UK Performance Center will enable WWE to train athletes utilizing a comprehensive program, including in-ring training, physical preparedness, and character development. The facility is the first of what will be many performance centers outside of the United States. WWE EVP of Talent, Live Events, and Creative, Paul Triple H Levesque said. And Triple H says, in quote, "It's about going the world over and finding the greatest athletes and the greatest performers in any market we can," he said. "It's an incredible undertaking looking for the greatest athletes from around the world, bringing them to places like this that will be set up around the world to train the next generation of superstars." Charlotte was on hand. Finn Balor was on hand. They both got to talk a little bit. Pete Dunne got to chat a little bit. And then the story continues saying, "More than 30 of the best European talent signed to the NXT UK brand will train at the UK Performance Center and can be seen weekly on the NXT UK program that streams every Wednesday at 3 p.m. ET, 8 p.m. GMT on the award-winning WWE Network." So, a couple things we got out of this. One, that basically they're going to mirror the model of NXT in Florida with NXT UK, whereas they're going to bring people into the Performance Center there. They're going to bring in talent from the United Kingdom and potentially Europe into that Performance Center, train them, get them ready for the NXT UK show, and then once they do that, maybe they'll move up. The second thing we also learned, they made a hard point. They drove home hard the fact that this is the first of many Performance Centers. So it hasn't really been that much of a secret, but this pretty much confirms the fact that we are soon going to probably see the launch or the attempted launch eventually in future years of an NXT Australia, an NXT Japan, maybe an NXT China, maybe an NXT Germany, and then maybe we'll get one like an NXT. I wouldn't say NXT Mexico because standard NXT is normally for all of North America, but who knows where else they could go. So it's very interesting to see that WWE has now basically said, yes, this is what we're doing. We are going to try and create our own basically little like web of indies, like a indie system, almost like a minor localized system, technically a localized minor league system where everybody works throughout the NXTs. And this ties into a little bit of interest into what's going to happen as far as moving up. Is NXT UK on the same level as NXT? Is it below NXT? Will these other localized be below that? What is the system for moving up and down in the company now? What is it going to be when these other NXT programs and performance centers pop up? Well, somebody actually asked Triple H that, and he had a very interesting answer. So this is written by Andrew Ravens on WrestlingNews.co, and it's taken, and he took this story from Inside the Ropes. So I quote from the story. Triple H spoke with Inside the Ropes while in attendance on Friday for the launch of the new Performance Center in the United Kingdom. That was unveiled alongside Shawn Michaels, Robbie Brookside, Matt Bloom, Finn Balor, Charlotte Flair, and the NXT UK roster. This is where the game spoke about how certain NXT UK stars will indeed make the eventual transition to the main roster. Also, there will be some talent who are used in both NXT UK and NXT, as we've seen before. I mean, we've seen that with with British Strong Style in general, which is Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, Pete Dunne. We've seen that with Tony Storm. We've seen that with Rhea Ripley. We've seen that with Dakota Kai. Anyway, as I continue, here's a quote from Triple H. "There is some talent here that you might see come from the UK that might move straight to Raw or SmackDown," Triple H explained. "I think right now there's sort of this perceived system where it's kind of 1 Raw, 2 SmackDown, 3 NXT, 4 NXT UK. I don't believe that. I believe the talent are talent, and I believe they will sit where they sit. And I believe you'll see talent over the next few years start coming up to Raw and SmackDown." I think it means from NXT and NXT UK both. "And I think you'll see them move back over into NXT or come back into the NXT UK system. I think talent will begin to evolve and rotate through the territories, so to speak." I'll get to that in a bit. I want to continue because Triple H had a little bit more of a quote. The future WWE Hall of Famer would continue by stating that he thinks there are some stars who will have more successful careers while rotating through the NXT developmental territories instead of just sending them on the main roster. "I think there will be some talent that will be incredibly successful, will be global names, will be global household names," Triple H said. That will probably never leave the NXT system because that's their home base and that's where they fit. And they'll have incredibly successful, meaningful careers. And probably over those careers, they'll gravitate through different locations within the globe. Maybe without never being on Raw or SmackDown, but that not being any lesser to their careers. So, basically, what Triple H is saying here is that he's basically building up a new territory system, where it's all going to be developmental territories. And he basically wants to make his own indie system built on territories, except instead of the U.S. territory system, it's going to be more of a global territory system. And I think what he's trying to get at is that all of the NXTs, like NXT, which will probably either just stay NXT or become NXT North America, NXT, NXT UK, and any other NXTs that pop up will all be on the same level. They'll all be kind of like a independence, their own territory system, where you may see somebody like a Zach Gibson or a Dave Mastiff start off in NXT UK because they're from England, or that's the scene, the indie scene where they've become known in. But they could eventually, instead of going up to the main roster, if there isn't a spot on the main roster, or they don't feel like the main roster is a spot for them, they will instead move them, and you'll see Zach Gibson leave NXT UK and become a full-time member of standard NXT. And the same can happen when they pop up with NXT Japan. You could see somebody like, say they did NXT Japan, and Kushida's probably going to end up on 205 Live, or I think he's going to be on main NXT, but say like Kushida and is like the start of like maybe this Japan expansion where they want to make NXT Japan, and Kushida ends up being the main face of NXT Japan. Say we see Kushida on NXT Japan, and then eventually he ends up going to the UK and becomes a mainstay on NXT UK. I think that's what Triple H is starting to get at. He's basically saying this is a developmental system that is going to be designed to get guys up to the main roster. But there will be guys that just can't get it. That just maybe they'll go up to the main roster and they can't figure it out on the main roster. Or maybe they don't feel like they're going to survive on the main roster. So maybe somebody like, I mean, they're technically kind of wrong now because he's doing great in New Japan, but somebody like a CJ Parker who became Juice Robinson. Maybe some guys who never got the fair shot on the main roster, like a Ty Dillinger or Tyler Breeze, would have just stayed in NXT and maybe moved to different areas in NXT. And also maybe this will develop something to where, say somebody's not doing well on the main roster, like say, the Revival was in a slump, or you got Gallows and Anderson who are in a slump. Again, Tyler Breeze and Ty Dillinger, they're in a bit of a funk. Maybe they move them back down to NXT. So it's not so much you only move up, and then when you can't go anywhere in the main roster, you get let go. I think unless you ask for your release, if you're up on the main roster, they will move you down to an NXT territory to try and get you more exposure, to see if you can put something together and go back up to the main roster. But again, he also says that there are going to be certain talent that will forever be in NXT, in the NXT developmental system. I understand what he's saying. It makes perfect sense because there isn't infinite amount of space in the main roster. I just don't know how wrestlers are going to take that. I think NXT will maybe become a thing, but this might also be something that could be used as fuel for AEW to say, like, you know what, these people don't believe in you. They're going to keep you in the NXT system. Just leave NXT, come over to AEW. We've got a TV deal. You can either be on the network and work in these like smaller arenas where, yeah, you'll get fans, but maybe you're not getting enough money. But it gives it all depends on how much money are these NXT guys going to get for being on the NXT roster, because Triple H says in these quotes that they can have a long, successful career in the NXT system. It depends on how you define long, successful career. If you're going to have a lot of success in the ring and between the ropes and have a lot of accolades and accomplishments in the NXT system, then yes. But how much money does WWE have to be able to afford to pay all of these NXT people in the territories? Will they have to wait until it becomes self-sustaining? Is NXT UK self-sustaining right now? Is regular NXT self-sustaining right now to where they can pay their wrestlers a manageable wage? Because if they can't, I don't know whether or not the system is going to succeed or fail, because it's not like New Japan's going away. Dragon Gate isn't going away. AEW is going to be a big thing. Pro Wrestling Noah is going to be a thing. ROH is still going to be a thing. Hopefully World of Sport will still be a thing. Defiant Wrestling will hopefully still be a thing. So it all depends on how much money WWE is going to be willing to pay these guys. And also, how much is it long enough for them to have a sustained career? Because maybe this might just force people to retire at some point eventually. Or I may be like, yeah, I can work at NXT, but they don't guarantee that you're going to go to the main roster anymore. So do I want to go to NXT where I'll be on the network and get paid this much? Or do I want to go to New Japan or AEW where they're going to pay me more, a much better wage and salary, and I'll be on TV or on New Japan World, which is just as big as or comparable to the WWE Network. So it's an interesting story, interesting statements, interesting developments around NXT TakeOver Blackpool and what Triple H had to say. It's, again, I don't know the details of the money involved, but I think that's going to be the determining factor of whether or not this is a success or not. If they can pay their wrestlers fairly, competitively, in comparison to the rest of the local territories, and that's fine. But if you're not going to guarantee main roster spots, people come in, who knows if that's going to attract the people you want. Although he did again say talent is talent, which is basically like, it's not like we're going to say, no, we need you to stay in NXT Japan because we need that spot in NXT Japan filled. If you work your ass off and you're good enough in that developmental territory, I think, he'll bring you up. I think that's what he's trying to say. Big Stupid with a comment on the story from chat says, I think the third hour of Raw plus the new cable deal helps NXT stay profitable. Plus now with so many other options, now you can leave and still be sustained financially. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the new TV deal is bringing in a lot of money for WWE, and it seems to me that they're going on a big hiring spree and expansion spree to try and also combat the expansion of wrestling. I feel like wrestling is becoming popular again, as the rise of New Japan, the expansion of WWE, the creation of AEW, is showing. And the question is just going to be, yeah, they got a lot of money from Fox, but you also got to consider, how long is the deal? I think the deal is maybe for, I've heard 3 to 5 years, I think. I'm going to look that up right now. Yeah, it's a 5-year deal. 5 years. It's close to $1 billion. That's a lot of money. So you can expand with that. But also that $5 billion or that $1 billion runs out at the end of 5 years. So if you didn't accomplish your goals, like, I'm a little worried, because if they don't accomplish their goals and do what they want to do by the end of those 5 years, and they don't attract more money, or say like TV's gone the way of the dinosaur and it's only all streaming by then, or these companies don't have the money to pay $1 billion to WWE, and that money shrinks, what's going to happen in the developmental territories? Will there be a mass exodus? Will some of these developmental territories be shut down? So it's an interesting time, is all I'm going to say. And it's some interesting quotes, and it's just stuff to think about and keep in your mind going forward as WWE goes into this new TV deal, as they expand, as AEW becomes a more prominent thing. We're entering like this new, almost kind of wild west of wrestling now with all the expansions and whatnot. So it's just, those quotes are something to keep in mind when you see guys, when you see that new developmental brands are going to come, and if you see guys stick around in NXT or NXT UK longer than guys have before. Big Stupid, I'm not going to entertain that comment. It involved oil money. All right. So moving on from that, we had the AEW All Elite Wrestling Rally on Tuesday after New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom 13. And a lot of news came out of this. We found out that the first event for AEW is going to be Double or Nothing, which is coming to Las Vegas at the MGM Grand at the Garden Arena on May 25th, 2019. Happens to be the day after my birthday. You know, if anybody wants to, give me a birthday gift of like a plane ticket and a hotel room in Las Vegas for Double or Nothing, NBD. But yes, they announced that event. And we found out that StarCast 2 was also announced. StarCast was the kind of WrestleCon of All In, where it was all weekend. It was kind of like a convention type atmosphere. People went to hang out and do stuff, meet other people, hang out with wrestling fans, meet wrestlers, meet wrestling personalities, all that kind of stuff, and just celebrate wrestling. So they'll be doing that again in Las Vegas around Double or Nothing. We also learned that Pac is going to be a Double or Nothing. And it looks like Pac is going to be battling Hangman Page and maybe more people, maybe not, for the AEW Championship. Hangman Page came out during the rally, said he would love to be the first All Elite Wrestling Champion, and Pac came out with his Dragon Gate Championship and in full gear too. So props to Pac for going the extra mile. For those of you who don't know, Pac is also Neville from WWE, the former king of the cruiserweights. So he came out, he said, "Oh, you think you deserve a championship? Well, let's battle." Here's the story from Wrestling Observer. Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online. It said Pac said he was here in AEW and he was already a champion. He and Hangman Page had a stare down before he made his exit, and Hangman said if that was meant to be some sort of a challenge, he accepts. We don't know if he was officially signed with AEW, I don't think. But we know he's definitely going to be a Double or Nothing for that show. He may be signed because we also learned that Chris Jericho is going to be All In. He is in with All In, All Elite Wrestling. He came out at the very end, announced that he is All In, and that he wasn't there for the money. This is also from Figure 4 Online, that he's there because he believes in doing something different and new. He hyped up the promotion and left. He also mentioned on Twitter, by the way, that he wouldn't have signed with AEW if a lucrative TV deal wasn't already in the works. And he said there are several. So there is probably going to be a good TV deal for AEW when it's signed. It has been said another reason why Jericho signed is that he is not exclusive to AEW. He has been granted the ability to continue doing his Jericho cruise and to continue working in New Japan, which is why it's interesting to try and see if Pac is just doing Double or Nothing, or if he's signed to AEW but has one of these non-exclusive deals like a Chris Jericho where he's allowed to work Dragon Gate while also work AEW. And then I want to see if I didn't look up the rest of the announcements from the weekend. But here's more announcements from the rally. I'll take this from Sportskepedia. We got the Double or Nothing date and location. It was Pac, and we got the Pac reveal. Of course, it's going to... is this the other thing? Brandy Rhodes came out and announced that the women will be paid the same as the men, and there will be a women's division. And just ignore that ad that's playing. I'm going to mute that. Mute. Because the ad would not mute itself. So apologies to you guys for that. Anyway, Randy came out and she said that men will be paid equal to the men, which doesn't mean like the AEW champion will be paid the same as a just signed woman in AEW. It means that the AEW men's champion and women's champion will be paid the same. All the men and women mid-carders will be paid the same, and all the men and women low-carders, I guess, is what you would call, will be paid the same, which I think is great. It's awesome and it's very progressive. I agree with it. I am all for it. Stupid coming in on the Jericho thing also says that translation, you won't be seeing Jericho in WWE anytime soon. I agree. I would not be surprised if they completely erased all mentions of Jericho from WWE.com. Somebody should probably go and check on that, because it is tradition in WWE that when somebody does something that Vince doesn't like, they kind of become persona non grata and get wiped from existence. Happened with CM Punk, happened with Chris Benoit, it happened with Hulk Hogan. It's happened, and it's also happened with guys when they've been released or gone to work for a competition. I think it happened with Kurt Angle for a while. So like, if you do something legitimately messed up, or if you just go to the competition, they will forget about you. So I wouldn't be surprised. They've already apparently scrubbed him from the Then Now Forever opening, which that was quick. Other announcements from the AEW rally is that MJF and Joey Janela and Penelope Ford have all signed with AEW as well. Joey Janela is still recovering from his injury, but we got more members of the roster who were signed. We also learned that Billy Gunn, badass Billy Gunn, is going to be the first and currently only producer for AEW, but I'm sure they will get more. And I believe that's pretty much everything that we've learned. We also found out that, if I can get to the story, that Shad Khan is confirmed, Tony Khan's father, as the lead investor for All Elite Wrestling. So there is a release that Khan stated based on All Elite Wrestling. All right, he is still on WWE.com. Okay, so they haven't completely scrubbed him yet, just from the intro. Anyway, from the release of Shad Khan, where he talked about All Elite Wrestling, he said, "I am the lead investor, a supporter, and backer of All Elite Wrestling, and I anticipate great things today and into the future for AEW and everyone who has worked passionately on this week's launch. I know AEW will be welcomed by wrestling fans here in the US and throughout the world who are ready for something new and authentic. AEW will work hard to deliver on that promise." He continued saying, as important as I am the father, the proud father, or as important, I am the father, the proud father of Tony Khan, who will serve in a leadership role in AEW during the 2019 launch and in the years ahead. Tony will assemble a great team to take AEW over the top for the benefit of everyone who loves the wrestling industry, while continuing to serve in his current capacities with the Jaguars and Fulham. AEW will operate as an organization completely independent from my other interests. It will not deter attention or divert resources from any of my businesses, teams, projects, or investments. At the same time, AEW will enjoy the same full commitment I give to everything and everyone in my life, my family and friends, my businesses, and in recent years to sports, hospitality, and now entertainment. Then he gave a statement about AEW. This is Tony Khan now, gave a statement saying, "Wrestling fans are a community unlike most others. I've been part of the community since I was 7 years old, and I can tell you that wrestling fans see the world every day through a special lens. We see wrestling in Hollywood films and TV shows. We see elements of wrestling in the presentation of sports and in the marketing of grandiose star athletes, and we certainly see wrestling in politics. The wrestling community is a constant. Its members are diverse. We are physically located on all corners of the planet, yet we are constantly connected. Recently, a new family has formed, bonded by love and respect for wrestling, but armed with a vision and resources that have never before been available to the wrestling community. Our objective is to connect our community closer than ever before through All Elite Wrestling, or AEW. AEW does not mean any less of a continued commitment to existing obligations and duties that I have or my family has to our business and sports interests. That will never be the case. What's important is that every individual decision we make as a family, whether it's ownership or investment in a team or property, is 100% beneficial to those specific interests. I will always welcome that accountability and responsibility, as nothing is more important than serving our supporters and friends. AEW will launch with a roster of the top wrestlers in the world, while they'll clash in what will be some of the most intense and fast-paced contests ever sanctioned in the squared circle. They'll also share a common goal to make this the true golden age, to make this the greatest time ever to be a wrestling fan. Likewise, as a business, by treating our wrestlers with respect and warmth, we also seek to make the golden age the golden age for the performers themselves. I urge everyone who believes in what we're doing or wants to believe in dreams coming true to support AEW by spreading the word and passing the wrestling bug on to someone else. My message: get in on the ground floor with AEW today and help lead our movement to grow the wrestling community and ensure that the voices of the wrestling fans, their creative minds, and their remarkable ideas will always be heard. So, good stuff from the Cons. They seem to be fully invested in making sure that this is going to be a success. There was also, I believe, an announcement that AEW will be paying in full for all wrestlers who are injured during their matches. They won't have to worry about health coverage or anything, which is great. There have also been rumors about other kind of benefits maybe for the wrestlers, but nothing has been confirmed just yet. But now on to the news from the one guy, the one member of the Elite, not Marty Scurll, but the other one, who is up in the air, who we don't know quite sure what is going on with him or not. Kenny Omega. Nobody knows whether Kenny O is going to go back to New Japan or to AEW, but people believe it's going to be AEW. The reports have come out over the last week. Though they're not sure whether or not whether it's a work or a shoot, that Kenny Omega has pretty much said that he is done in New Japan. And we have also heard that he has rejected a contract offer from WWE. This coming from Bleacher Report WWE, written by Mike Chiari. The report, which he pulled from Wrestling Observer Newsletter, says Kenny Omega reportedly turned down a contract offer from WWE with an eye toward joining All Elite Wrestling. According to Dave Meltzer, the Meltsy Melts of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, Omega will become a free agent on February 1st, and he is expected to sign with AEW after rejecting WWE's overtures. Omega lost the IWGP Heavyweight Championship to Hiroshi Tanahashi in the main event of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 13 last week, which led to speculation regarding his future. The 35-year-old Omega is part of the Elite with Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, and Marty Scurll. Rhodes and the Young Bucks founded All Elite Wrestling along with Tony Khan. We all know that. All this other stuff, just mentioning all this other stuff. If Omega doesn't sign with AEW, he will give the brand even more credibility and figures to be featured in a featured match at Double or Nothing. Potentially missing out on Omega may not necessarily be a devastating blow for WWE, but he undoubtedly would have been a huge addition heading towards WrestleMania 35 in April. So all signs are pointing towards Kenny Omega signing with AEW once his New Japan contract runs out. The reason why he wasn't at the rally is because his contract with New Japan doesn't run out until February 1st. He is contractually obligated to not show up. He is still contractually signed to New Japan, so he could not show up unless he wanted a lawsuit from New Japan. So I'm pretty sure they will announce via Being the Elite or something like that once February rolls around that Kenny Omega will be the newest edition of AEW, and he will probably immediately be put into the main event scene. I would love to see him be the first ever AEW champion. Another hint that he is going to AEW is that in the latest Being the Elite video, which features after Wrestle Kingdom, which is talking about the guys over New Year's, about the formation of AEW, about them all losing. They make a joke about how they all lose at Wrestle Kingdom 13. The show ends as they're all talking about what they're going to do next, that Kenny hasn't found it, doesn't know where his phone is, that he's lost his phone, and that he needs to go find his phone. And when the episode goes to end and it shows the typical end card, it cuts back and does this cliffhanger that goes to find Kenny Omega's phone with a countdown clock sound going off. Now, when they announced that other guys were going, they also used a countdown clock previously on Being the Elite when they were mentioning, or before the announcement of AEW. So it's another strong hint that Kenny, come February 1st, is going to announce that he is going to be a member of AEW, that he will be all in with All Elite Wrestling. So expect Kenny to go to AEW. Now, New Japan's losing all this talent with AEW coming into the mix. We don't know if they're going to eventually sign a agreement or partnership with AEW since they're still currently under contract with ROH. However, they did lock up two guys for some multi-year deals. And that is Juice Robinson and Rocky Romero. This also coming from a Figure 4 Online, as reported by Meltzer from Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave Meltzer reports, and this is from Figure 4 Online, that Juice Robinson has signed a 3-year deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Meltzer noted that WWE was interested in Robinson, but there was no talking between the two sides. Meltzer also said that All Elite Wrestling obviously wanted Robinson. I mean, he's their U.S. champion right now, and they're strapping a rocket to him at the moment. Robinson won the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship by defeating Cody at Wrestle Kingdom 13. This is Robinson's second reign with the title. He won it from Jay White at last July's G1 special in San Francisco. Lost to Cody at Fighting Spirit Unleashed in September and won it back at Wrestle Kingdom. Robinson joined New Japan in 2015 after requesting his release from WWE when competing as CJ Parker in NXT. Rocky Romero also announced via Twitter on Monday that he's come to terms with New Japan Pro Wrestling on a multi-year deal. Happy to say, this is a quote from Rocky's tweet. Happy to say I came into terms with at NJPW 1972 for a multi-year deal. Roppongi Lights, Roppongi Vice, hashtag RPG3K, hashtag Celebrate Pro Wrestling. So, they're at least keeping Rocky Romero, which is good. And they're keeping Juice Robinson. I can understand where WWE's coming from, where they have interest in bringing him back. But I think WWE's mindset right now with Juice Robinson is that he's developing New Japan. He's becoming a strong figure and face for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I can tell from looking at his stuff, he still has some more growth to go. So I think what WWE is doing is they're interested, but they probably feel, let him go ahead and develop himself and do more things out in New Japan for a few more years. I think in 3 years' time, when we come back to this in about 2022, after Wrestle Kingdom 16, we will likely hear AEW and WWE both probably looking to make big plays for Juice Robinson. And big plays from New Japan to try and keep him. Speaking of WWE and signings, Trevor Lee officially announced that he has signed his deal with WWE. This is also coming from Figure 4 Online, but the source is actually from an event that he competed. Trevor Lee, this is the story from Figure 4 Online. It came from an event. I watched the video. Trevor Lee is officially signed with WWE. Lee announced the news during a promo at the end of Saturday night's CWF Mid-Atlantic show in Gibsonville, North Carolina. Lee mentioned that there were rumors this would be his last night in the promotion. He said that there was almost a little bit of truth to that. Lee said that he's no longer a free agent, and as of this week, he's signed a contract with WWE. Crouch Jenny, you deserve it. He said it's not going to be his final appearance for the promotion, though. He said he's still going to be, because he still has their championship, apparently. And he's going to be appearing in a six-pack scramble for the championship on February 2nd, where he'll probably lose the title. He was in the main event that night with Hurricane Helms, Shane Helms, Gregory Helms, you might know him, and Kane Justice. They defeated Eric Royale, Roy Wilkins, and Brad Attitude in a six-man tag match. So yeah. Lee joining WWE NXT has been expected since he finished up with Impact Wrestling in November. Lee announced on January 1st, 2019 that he was officially a free agent. He thanked Impact for the friends he's made and the knowledge he's learned. Lee was a 3-time Activision champion and 1-time tag team champion for Impact. In addition to Impact and CWF Mid-Atlantic, he's also been a regular for PWG and AAW. And Big Stupid talking about Juice Robinson says he'll be the guy for WWE NXT Japan. I would not be surprised. If it's like, come back, we will make you the champion for NXT Japan. Like, expect WWE, like Kushida and Nakamura are just the beginning. Expect WWE over the next couple of years. Now that NXT UK has, a firm grip and has its own performance center, expect in the next couple of years WWE to hardcore go after some Japanese superstars. And while we're sticking with WWE, let's talk WWE events that are coming up and developments that are happening with those. WWE announced a Worlds Collide tournament set, which lines up with the whole NXT brands are all the same, though kind of almost an insult to 205 Live. But I feel like this might be the beginning of what will become maybe a regular thing once more developmental territories become a standard. It is a tournament that pits members of 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK against each other. The winner of the championship I'm just trying to look it up here in the story. I believe we'll get a title opportunity. Don't know if it's for a certain date, but whoever wins, if the person from NXT UK wins, they get a shot at the UK Championship. NXT Championship. 205 Live Cruiserweight Championship. Anyway, details. Again, from Figure 4 Online, the tournament is being called WWE Worlds Collide and will feature 15 wrestlers, 5 from each of the brands. We'll receive a title shot or opportunity. You don't say shot on WWE programming. You say opportunity. It is not a shot. It is a opportunity of their choosing. But again, no details on whether or not what's going to happen. It was also noted that the tournament is going to be taped and used as a network special, but we don't know when that's going to happen. Anyway, I'm sure you guys are curious to know who is in the event. From NXT, it will be Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, Dominic Djokovic, Keith Lee, and Otis Dozovic. Interesting that Dozovic is in it, since he's one half of Heavy Machinery and going to be going up to the main roster. The NXT UK competitors, Mark Andrews, Tyler Bate, Travis Banks, Jordan Devlin, and Zach Gibson. That is a hell of a lineup for NXT UK going to that tournament. And 205 Live, we'll get Cedric Alexander, Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, TJP, and a wrestler to be named later. And there is an update to the story saying that Humberto Carrillo, who was known as Ultimo Ninja before signing WWE, was originally listed to be representing 205 Live. That's been changed to a superstar to be named later. Carrillo has been wrestling at NXT house shows and some episodes of NXT television since joining WWE. They may not want to just announce him outright, because this week on 205 Live, Buddy Murphy is going to issue an open challenge to anybody who weighs 205 pounds or less for the Cruiserweight Championship, and it's believed that it's going to be a new debuting superstar. So it might be Ultimo Ninja, and it might be that they removed his name, took his name off because they wanted to wait until he actually debuted before they announced his name. Big Stupid says Shane McMahon's going to win. Maybe. I mean, they're not being listed as named as best in the world, so it might not interest Shane. And then just to let you guys know, we got a confirmed NXT Tag Team Championship match for NXT TakeOver Phoenix. The Undisputed Era will be taking on the War Raiders for the NXT Tag Team Championships. And that brings our list of matches for NXT TakeOver Phoenix. Currently, the guaranteed matches are Tommaso Ciampa versus Aleister Black. Shayna Baszler versus Bianca Belair for the NXT Women's Championship. The first match I mentioned, Ciampa Black for the NXT Championship. Undisputed Era versus War Raiders for the NXT Tag Team Championship. And it's also believed that we are going to be getting Ricochet versus Johnny Gargano, since there is a program going for that, though I don't believe it is officially announced yet, for the North American Championship. And then it's believed that Riddle and Ono will have a third blow-off match as well, but neither of those last two matches are confirmed. And then, as I mentioned about the Buddy Murphy thing with 205 Live, 205 Live is reportedly going to be moving back to Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. It was originally airing on Wednesdays, so as not to conflict with the Mixed Mask Challenge, which was airing on Facebook at 10 at that time. But it hasn't been said whether or not it's going to be live. I think it's still going to be acting on a tape delay, where they'll shoot it, where the matches will be performed before SmackDown, and then everything will be packaged and put together and broadcast after SmackDown at 10 o'clock, which would be good, because we all know that it is a bad decision to put on 205 Live for a live crowd after SmackDown when they're already burned out of watching SmackDown. Speaking of SmackDown, by the way, before I get ahead to all this stuff, if you guys want to see something interesting from Raw and SmackDown and everything, go watch Daniel Bryan's promo from SmackDown this week. It was incredible. Then we get into the men's, we have more names coming into the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is 2 weeks away. Hopefully DMurph and or myself will be able to do a little watch along. But we got more names. So the full list, as it stands right now, the list of people who are currently in the men and women's Royal Rumble match for the men. Right now it is R-Truth. He'll be into number 30. Drew McIntyre, Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Jeff Hardy, Dean Ambrose, Samoa Joe, Bobby Lashley, John Cena, Elias, Baron Corbin, Jinder Mahal, Apollo Crews, Andrade Cien Almas, Rey Mysterio, and Mustafa Ali, which also, by the way, speaking of Mustafa Ali, he was on Jericho's podcast this week for an interview. Told this story. Amazing stuff. Mustafa Ali is an amazing human being. I definitely recommend you check out Jericho's podcast this week and listen to the interview. Mustafa Ali told the story of his history coming up in wrestling. Also talked about how he used to be a police officer in Chicago and how he told us one of the stories of he said 3 or 4 times somebody has tried to kill him when he was a cop. So really cool. Mustafa Ali just seems like an awesome guy. I am so glad that he's on SmackDown. He's the first guy from 205 who has been able to transition to the main roster of Raw SmackDown. And I hope bigger things happen for him. For the Women's Royal Rumble, currently entered, we have Carmella, who will enter at number 30. Sasha Banks, who gained a match at the Royal Rumble. She will be challenging Ronda Rousey for the Women's Championship. She's also still in the Royal Rumble match. We also have Bayley, Ember Moon, Natty, Natalya, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Alicia Fox, Zelina Vega, and Naomi. So if I do the numbers in my head, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 on a quick count already for the women, so that's almost half. For the men, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We have 19 for the men. So there's still 11 spots in the men's Royal Rumble and 16 spots in the women's Royal Rumble to be claimed over the next couple of weeks. Big Stupid, you asked that you hope that the pool we did for the entrance last year we do again. Or you hope so, because that thing was fun. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. For those of you who are wondering, if we do a watch party, either I do it by myself or I join DMurph for Royal Rumble. Last year, what we did is we took some of the followers, the guys who were in the chat, which I believe was I think Cam, Big Stupid, and maybe Laserscope, and we also threw in took myself, DMurph, and I think one of our friends. We split up we evenly split up all of the Royal Rumble entrants for both Rumbles, and we picked numbers out of the hat live on stream and you would be, and whoever came out on that number, that was your guy. You were rooting on that person to win the Royal Rumble. So it was a fun little Rumble pool. So if you want to get involved with that, stay tuned. Check to see if we're live streaming the reactions on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/L_Murpho, to get involved in that Rumble pool. If you want to get involved, if we stream our reactions. Big Stupid says Becky effing Lynch better still be in the Rumble. She is challenging for the NXT SmackDown, or not the NXT SmackDown, for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship against Asuka. I hope, since Sasha Banks is also in the Rumble, that Becky Lynch is also going to be in the Rumble. And then just to update you guys, this is what the card is currently looking like for the Royal Rumble on the 27th of January. We have the Universal Champion Brock Lesnar taking on Braun Strowman. We have both Rumble matches where I just listed the current competitors. We have Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. We've got Buddy Murphy taking on Akira Tozawa, Kalisto, and now the 4th member confirmed, Hideo Itami, for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship match in a Fatal 4-Way. As I just mentioned before, Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then we have the SmackDown Tag Team titles confirmed and set for The Bar versus The Miz and Shane McMahon. And with all of that said, we're through wrestling. I think that was a good solid hour of wrestling talk. We're going to go ahead and... actually, before this, Big Stupid just asked me about something that happened on Raw, so I'll bring this up. He asked how brutal the segment with Brock and Braun was. It was pretty brutal, and I think that showed that, yeah, Braun's big push is pretty much over, and I'm pretty sure he's going to lose to Brock, and we're going to get Rollins winning the Royal Rumble, and we're going to get Rollins versus Lesnar for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania, which will be an amazing match, and Rollins should win. So we also had some cool stuff with Rollins. I believe this was the show where Rollins also was just going crazy, attacking Bobby Lashley at the beginning of the show, and then he had the no DQ Universal Championship match with Dean Ambrose, which ended thanks to Bobby Lashley interfering with him. But it was a really good, solid match. Yeah, that promo was brutal. But we also got a brutal promo from Nia Jax that week. I think any push she might have had is definitely dead. We also got a nice promo from Drew McIntyre. cutting it towards John Cena. And apparently we heard that this week, as part of changes, that the promos were less scripted and that wrestlers were given bullet points. So that might show how certain superstars succeeded and did really well in their promos this week, and some didn't. Kind of trying to meet that midway, almost closer to where it was in the Attitude Era, where they're trying to open it up to more improv for people and let people's actual talent show instead of them trying to memorize the lines. Big Stupid, oh yeah, and Sasha Banks keeps trying to kill herself in the ring. I didn't see that part. I didn't see that. I just saw the promo part, and I know that she won the match over Nia Jax. But anyway, I've talked about wrestling for far too long. We got to get through some video games. So let's go ahead and transition our way over to the Vidya games here on the Super Crap Bros podcast. Leading story, Bungie, the creators of Halo, who currently make and develop Destiny and Destiny 2, have separated themselves from Activision, and they are keeping the Destiny name. They are being able to keep the Destiny IP and self-produce it. This is huge in the industry. The only other time this has really been done was Bungie, when they separated from Microsoft, and they were owned by Microsoft at the time, but they were not allowed to keep Halo. That was the cost of them being able to go independent. However, Bungie broke the news in a blog post on their website titled Our Destiny. And the post says, when we first launched our partnership with Activision in 2010, the gaming industry was in a pretty different place. As an independent studio setting out to build a brand new experience, we wanted a partner willing to take a big leap of faith with us. We had a vision for Destiny that we believed in, but to launch a game of that magnitude, we needed to support an established publishing partner. We needed the support of an established publishing partner. With Activision, we created something special. To date, Destiny has delivered a combination of over 50 million games and expansions to players all around the world. More importantly, we've also witnessed a remarkable community, tens of millions of Guardians, rise up and embrace Destiny, to play together, to make and share memories together, and even to do truly great things that reach far beyond the game that we share, to deliver a positive impact on people's everyday lives. We have enjoyed a successful 8-year run and would like to thank Activision for their partnership on Destiny. Looking ahead, we are excited to announce plans for Activision to transfer the publishing rights for Destiny to Bungie. With our remarkable Destiny community, we are ready to publish on our own, while Activision will increase their focus on owned IP projects. The planned transition process is already underway in its early stages, with Bungie and Activision both committed to making sure the handoff is as seamless as possible. With Forsaken, we've learned and listened and learned and leaned in to what we believe our players want from a great Destiny experience. Rest assured, there is more of that on the way. We continue to deliver on the existing Destiny roadmap, and we're looking forward to releasing more seasonal experiences in the coming months, as well as surprising our community with some exciting announcements about what lies beyond. Thank you so much for your continued support. Our success is owed in no small part to the incredible community of players who have graced our worlds with light and life. We know self-publishing won't be easy. There's still much for us to learn as we grow as an independent global studio, but we see unbounded opportunities and potential in Destiny. We know that new adventures await us all on the new worlds filled with mystery, adventure, and hope. We hope you will join us there. See you Starside, Bungie. So this is huge. This is huge news coming out of the game industry. As a Destiny fan myself, this is insanely awesome news. I am excited for this, but there's reason to be cautiously optimistic because self-producing is very hard. Who knows if Bungie will have the money? However, this could mean that Destiny is going to lean into more of what made Forsaken a much better received product than Destiny 2. Destiny 2 seemed to lean more towards casual people. Forsaken, they kind of backed off on microtransaction-y stuff. They had a living, more free content, living world type content as things went on with the Dreaming City. The storyline was received well. The gameplay changes were received well. And so now we may see them do more of this seasonal kind of update stuff. Who knows if we'll get expansions every single year. we definitely may not, who knows if we'll get a Destiny 3, and if we do, maybe Destiny 3 is just where they sit and they stay, and we don't get anything beyond Destiny 3, and maybe it just merges into just one Destiny experience. Who knows if Eververse, their microtransaction system, that could be completely revamped or changed. Because Activision was not satisfied with how Forsaken performed. They expected it to make more money. It didn't make the kind of money that they wanted it to. But Bungie seemed to be happy catering to their fans and building their community, as opposed to just flat out making as much money hand over fist as they could. So it's going to be interesting to see as we see Bungie take over publishing duties and everything transitions and we get towards Destiny 3 and we see what maybe the next year, what year 3 of Destiny 2 brings. How much of the things that went wrong with Destiny 2 and at certain points Destiny was because of pressure from Activision and how much of it was decisions by Bungie. But regardless, huge news. Definitely had to bring it up first of all. I am excited for what is going to happen with Destiny in the future. I can't wait. I'm excited. And speaking of Destiny 2, I just want to talk about one other thing. Destiny released last week this puzzle that was designed to open up the Burgusia Forge for those who have the Black Armory DLC, for the annual pass holders who have that. There was a puzzle called the Niobe Labs puzzle. Nobody could figure it out. And the problem with that puzzle is that it locked away the Burgusia Forge content until people could play it. Kind of similar to how once the raid was beaten, the Dreaming City started to evolve and do its like 3-week rotation. Unfortunately, this time it backfired because the puzzle was too hard. Somebody finally solved it yesterday. A team finally solved it, and it's going to be acknowledged by Bungie apparently this week. But just interesting. Like, a lot of people think that maybe Bungie shouldn't lock away content through tasks like this. I kind of think it's cool, but at the same time, maybe not make it this hard. So I just wanted to put that out there. And also, one thing that people aren't sure about with Destiny going forward, maybe with Destiny 3, is what Bungie might do as far as the Destiny 2 right now will still be on Battle.net. But will Destiny 3 be? And will they move to Epic, which has a like almost 90 to 10 revenue share deal with developers who publish on the store, put their games on the store. And people are wondering whether or not Bungie will make this move to make more money for themselves to help support them in self-production, because Ubisoft has set a precedent. The story here from Game Industry Biz is that Ubisoft foregoed Steam, left Steam, and is going to be releasing The Division 2 on the Epic Game Store. Not even on Uplay, not on Steam, on the Epic Game Store. The story from Hayden Taylor of Game Industry Biz. I quote, "Shots have been fired today in the digital distribution platform war as Ubisoft shuns Steam in favor of Epic Games. While the recently launched Epic's Game Store hasn't had much trouble attracting smaller indie developers, this exclusive agreement on such a high-profile AAA title represents a serious coup over Steam. Furthermore, it has been announced that Ubisoft and Epic will partner on quote-unquote additional select titles over the coming year. The partnership will see the PC version of Division 2 available only on the Epic Game Store and directly from Ubisoft. Ubisoft confirms that pre-orders placed on other platforms would be unaffected by the decision. Epic is working with the publisher to integrate digital rights management software Uplay with its own online services. With Epic taking only 12% cut of sales, yeah, it's 88-12, like I said, very close to 90-10, compared to Valve's less generous tiered system with Steam, it's become an attractive prospect for developers and publishers. And Epic is doing this because they say, that money really doesn't matter that much, like, to them, especially since they're making hand over fist barrels of money with Fortnite. Tim Sweeney, CEO of Epic, said, "We aim to provide the most publisher-friendly store, providing direct access to customers and an 88% revenue split, enabling game creators to further reinvest in building great games." Chris Early, Vice President of Partnerships at Ubisoft, added, "We entrust Epic to deliver a smooth journey for our fans, from pre-ordering the game and enjoying our beta to the launch. Epic continues to disrupt the video game industry, and their third-party digital distribution model is the latest example, and something Ubisoft wants to support." So this is huge, and this might be the first shot across the bow that may, I don't want to say bury, but take a huge chunk out of Steam. You could say that this is maybe what Valve gets for not really creating a lot of games to drive their brand. Because now Epic has Fortnite, which everybody plays, and they stayed off of Steam, and now they're able to build their own store based off of the popularity of their game. Maybe if Valve was able to still create, was still making Half-Life games or Left 4 Dead games or Team Fortress games or Portal games, they would still be the talk of the industry and be in such high demand for gamers and PC gamers that Steam would still be the number one place to go. I mean, it still is now, but now with Epic Games having this huge revenue share difference from Steam, and now the coup of Ubisoft and the popularity of Fortnite could spell some trouble for Steam going forward, and it's going to be very interesting to see if anybody else jumps ship and decides to leave Steam. And speaking of Epic, Epic Games has revealed that their store is going to have a refund policy that matches Steam. This is by Owen Good at Polygon. And he says, "The Epic Games Store has updated its refund policy to one matching the terms of the Steam Marketplace, providing for unconditional refunds of games within 2 weeks of purchase and less than 2 hours played." The news came this morning from Twitter, on Twitter from Sergey Galyanchin, Epic's Director of Publishing Strategy. For pre-ordered games, the return window is until 14 days after the game's launch date. Both the 2-week time frame and 2-hour trial period are features of Valve's return policy, which it implemented in June 2015. Galyanik said Epic is in the process of developing a self-service form for filing and receiving refunds. For now, players who want their money back will have to open a ticket with the Epic Games support. Further down the Twitter thread in which he announces this, Galyanik said that the Epic Games Store will one day add user reviews, which is something that Steam also does. However, developers will have to opt in to having reviews of their products on the storefront. Plus, and this is a quote, "Plus, we want to have a solution against review bombing," he added. The store, which launched in December, now sports a total of 130 countries and 30 different regions for regional pricing, Galyanik said. The process of adding regional currencies and listing games according to local prices will take some time, according to him. For now, they are being sold in dollars, U.S. American dollars. The refund change is not related to, but does follow the Better Business Bureau of Eastern North Carolina, doling out an F rating for the Fortnite maker based on scores of unanswered complaints lodged with the Bureau. Most of those complaints involved unauthorized or improper charges and poor responses to customers resolving their accounts. However, the caveat with that is that I'll keep actually reading. They might actually caveat it here. The BBB said Epic had received 279 total complaints in 2018, 247 of which had gone unanswered. A news release noted that Epic did not respond to the BBB's request for its side of the story. And basically, what Epic said in response was that I believe the majority of those complaints were to the Better Business Bureau. And Epic doesn't have a kind of accreditation with the Better Business Bureau, and they've informed people that, you know, you should go to them, to their Epic Games support, instead of to the Better Business Bureau with their claims. So yeah, Epic just killing it. Now not only do they have better revenue sharing, but it looks like they're going to try to introduce reviews, which is a highly popular thing of Steam, and the refund policy for Steam, which is also very successful. At least as far as I understand, very highly regarded, very positively received. Big Stupid says, "For all the hate Fortnite gets, props to their developers for using the money they get from that to allow themselves to cut people breaks in other areas." Yeah, exactly, right? Like, yeah, this is going to make this deal, when they get the AAA developers, are going to help make these other people millions of dollars and attract AAA developers. But the big thing about this revenue cut share is it's more money for the indie developers that desperately need it, because they've probably put all of their money, all of their savings into these games, and every little bit of money they can get on the products they've made is huge to them. So, like Big Stupid said, props to Epic Games for, taking the success they've had with Fortnite and doing good with it. And now, so Amazon is in the gaming news. This story is also from Game Industry Biz. They are reportedly looking to develop their own game streaming service. I'm not sure if this means store, kind of like Epic Games as well. Could be. But I think it's something to where you play the games on a stream or something, but we'll get into it as we read the article. Anyway, this is from Rebecca Valentine at Game Industry Biz. Amazon may have joined Google and Microsoft in development of a game streaming service that would perpetually, I'm terrible with that word, allow users to ditch physical discs and downloads and simply play games by streaming them over the internet, according to a recent report. This was actually something that started to be made 10 years ago by other different companies, but I guess bigger companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, who have the unlimited funds to actually make this a thing, are getting into it. Two people in the know spoke to the information about Amazon's ambitions to begin its own service for streaming gameplay online. Streaming gameplay online. I don't know if I think that means streaming the games, not like streaming, because Amazon owns Twitch. So that'd be redundant. Which reportedly wouldn't be available until 2020 at the earliest. However, Amazon is already apparently in talks with publishers about possible titles that would be distributed as parts of the service. In March of last year, Amazon launched Game On as a cloud-based tool to streamline the process of developers adding leaderboards, leagues, other competitions, and real-world prizes to their games. Should such a service come to fruition, Amazon would be alone or necessarily at the front of such technology. Microsoft in particular has been the subject of such conversation throughout 2018, with reports of it developing a streaming-only console for debut in 2020, and the far more concrete announcement of its Project xCloud service dropping in October of last year. Meanwhile, Google did a trial run of its still fairly quiet streaming service back in October with Assassin's Creed Odyssey in partnership with Ubisoft. So, interesting developments coming in the game industry, and this makes it questionable of if you can stream this stuff, can you do it off your smart TV through the Amazon app? Could you do it on your PC? And could you do it on the app on consoles? Is this going to render consoles maybe obsolete? This is probably going to be another nail in the coffin for physical games and physical game stores, brick and mortar places like GameStop. But we'll have to wait and see. Then circling back to Activision, I probably should have mentioned this when I was talking about the Bungie news, but Activision has named a new president of the company. It is Rob Kostich. Rob Kostich. And this came from a press release from Activision Blizzard, so I'm just going to quote that. From the press release, it says, Rob Kostich has led the company's most iconic franchise, Call of Duty, for the past 10 years. He is an Activision veteran of nearly 15 years, and as president, Kostich will oversee strategy and operations, including game development, for the operating unit. Under his leadership as GM and executive vice president of the franchise, Call of Duty has become one of the most successful entertainment properties in history. As a franchise, Call of Duty has now garnered more revenue than the Marvel Cinematic Universe and box office, and double that of the cumulative box office of Star Wars. During his tenure, Call of Duty has been the number one top-selling console video game franchise in the U.S. for the last decade. Mr. Kostich will also serves as president of the Call of Duty Endowment and has overseen the growth of Call of Duty esports, including the establishment of the Call of Duty World League, a leading esports organization. Prior to joining the company, Mr. Kostich held a variety of leadership and marketing positions at Verizon, Nestle USA, and the Clorox Company. So when he took over Call of Duty, he was not in the game industry. But he is now the president of Activision after working with Activision for 15 years and being the president of heading up the Call of Duty franchise for the last 10 years. And This is because the previous, my bad. The previous CEO is stepping down. He is leaving as of April. Interesting to know if he's being forced out because of stuff that Activision is suffering from, and the whole Bungie news. And I think the whole Star Wars Battlefront stuff that happened. We'll see if Activision, things are looking kind of a little not too great for Activision in the last year and a half. So we will, or actually, Battlefront 2 is EA, so let's not confuse EA with Activision. But still, the Bungie news, the fact that Skylanders was shuttered a while ago, although so have all those augmented games. There have been talks and rumors that Activision may be on a downward trend, but we'll see with this change of leadership. Call of Duty still did sell a buttload of stuff, a buttload of copies, made a buttload of money, and Blackout is popular and pretty good, so we'll see. Also, now, we talked about the Game Awards last month. There's another industry awards show that's just as big as the Game Awards, and that is the DICE Awards. They announced their nominees this year, dominated by God of War. So I just wanted to read off the nominees for you guys in case you were curious of hearing. So for Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction, we have Florence, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Return of the Obra Dinn. For Outstanding Achievement in Game Design, God of War, Into the Breach, Marvel Spider-Man, Return of the Obra Dinn, Subnautica. Online Game of the Year, Fortnite, Destiny 2 Forsaken, Laser League, Red Dead Redemption 2, Sea of Thieves. I don't know if I agree with Red Dead Redemption 2 being on this list because it's technically still a beta for Red Dead Online. Portable Game of the Year, Dandara, Donut Country, Dragalia Lost, Florence, and Oddmare. Outstanding Achievement for an Independent Game, Celeste, Florence, Into the Breach, Minute, Return of the Obra Dinn. Immersive Reality Game of the Year, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Beat Saber, Moss, Sprint Vector, and Transference. Immersive Reality Technical Achievement, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Beat Saber, Dr. Groardbort's Invaders, Tonandi, and Torn. Strategy/Simulation Game of the Year, Bad North, Frostpunk, Into the Breach, Northgard, and RimWorld. Sports Game of the Year, FIFA 19, Mario Tennis Aces, and MLB The Show 18. Only 3 nominees in that category. Role-Playing Game of the Year, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age, Monster Hunter World, Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom, and Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. Racing Game of the Year, also only 3 nominees, so it's separate from sports. Forza Horizon 4, F1 2018, and Wreckfest. Fighting Game of the Year, BlazBlue, Cross Tag Battle, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Soul Calibur 6, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Family Game of the Year, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Kirby Star Allies, Lego DC Supervillains, Starlink Battle for Atlas, Unraveled 2. Adventure Game of the Year, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Return of the Obra Dinn. Action Game of the Year, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, Celeste, Destiny 2 Forsaken, Far Cry 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Outstanding Technical Achievement, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Battlefield 5, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2. Outstanding Achievement in Story, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Florence, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, and Return of the Obra Dinn. Red Dead Redemption 2 getting the story snub. Surprising. Outstanding Achievement in Sound Design, Battlefield 5, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, and Moss. Outstanding Achievement in Original Music Composition, Detroit Become Human, Forgotten Anne, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Tetris Effect. Outstanding Achievement in Character, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Cassandra, God of War, Atreus, God of War, Kratos, Marvel Spider-Man, Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan. So basically that's like, I think, the best actor category. Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Gris, Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2. Outstanding Achievement in Animation, God of War, Gris, Marvel Spider-Man, Moss, Red Dead Redemption 2. And finally, Game of the Year, God of War, Into the Breach, Marvel Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Return of the Obra Dinn. The DICE Awards will be happening on February 13th, and they're being hosted by good old Greg Miller and Jessica Chobot. Greg Miller, CEO of Kind of Funny Games, does lots of good work on Kind of Funny, buddy of mine. Speaking of Red Dead Redemption 2, he's got quite a fair amount of nominations despite the story snub. They released a new Battle Royale type mode called Gun Rush, which is very similar, much more similar to Fortnite and PUBG and Blackout than their previous mode was. The previous mode What was the name of it? I'm trying to find it in this article. They don't mention it, doesn't look like. It was where you played with bows and arrows. But this time you actually get to pick up ammunition and guns. It's called Gun Rush. Basically, you have to survive. The area of the map shrinks, and there's only 32 players, though, as opposed to 100. It launched, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to check and see what people's receptions of it are yet. I still have to beat the Red Dead Redemption 2 story before I even jump into Red Dead Online. Hopefully, I hope it's good. But Rockstar also announced some Make It Count mode. That was the name of the other one with the bows and the knives. I'm going to take from this article because from IGN, written by Joe Scribbles. Rockstar also promised new updates coming soon, like new races, showdown modes, clothing and emotes, as well as more stuff per the press release. Daily challenges, tackle new challenges each day, covering every aspect of the game from sharpshooting to evading the law. Law and bounty upgrades. Some changes are coming to the way the law and bounty system works in Red Dead Online to reduce the enticements of griefing. Soon players will get a bounty for committing crimes and will be incentivized to pay them off within an allotted time. Wait too long and bounty hunters from each of the states will track the player, forcing them to either pay up or escape. Parlay changes. We're making the parlay system easier to trigger so that you can avoid aggressive players more quickly. In addition, it will be easier to trigger feuds, posse feuds, and leader feuds to take on attacking players in structured competition. And this is a big one. Proximity-based player blips. Player location blips will soon appear only over short distances, reducing the range at which you are visible to others, decreasing the likelihood of being targeted by another player across large areas. Down the line, we're also looking to introduce the ability to identify players who grief and kill indiscriminately with a progressively darkening blip that becomes more visible at a longer range, so everyone in a session can identify potentially dangerous opponents at a glance and from a safe distance. So basically, this is going to help you identify griefers, find out when you're close to one on a map, and also if you're trying to get away and stay away from a griefer, you don't have to get as far away from them as normal for you to no longer show up on their map so they can't hunt you down as easily. So some pretty good updates and changes coming to Red Dead Online in the future. I believe it's going to be switching over to full Red Dead Online and no longer be a beta within the next month or so. So, yeah, I'm hoping that by the time I get into it, all of the stuff that people are complaining about has been smoothed out, and it's going to be an actually fun, enjoyable experience. The next thing I want to talk about is that Spider-Man is going to be getting some sort of new thing involving the Fantastic Four. It has been rumored. This is pulled also from IGN from Jonathan Dornbush. The article says, speaking on a live stream, Marvel's Ryan Penagos said, quote, something, quote, fantastic is coming to Marvel's Spider-Man real soon. I can't tell you anything more right now, but you'll want to keep an eye out for this. It's going to be amazing and fantastic. So some people think, oh my God, is there going to be Fantastic Four DLC? Maybe, hopefully, maybe we'll get to see the Fantastic Four in some future DLC. But other people are speculating and believing that this might mean that we'll get a certain amazing Spider-Man costume and the Fantastic Four costume that Peter Parker wore, because there was a storyline in the comics where Peter Parker helped the Fantastic Four and wore the Fantastic Four jumpsuit, but had a paper bag on his head instead of a mask. So it might possibly be that just that kind of costume will be coming to the game. So we will see. Next story, which I just accidentally deleted, I will bring back up. It's a big deal from Overwatch, as Overwatch continues to build up his news, is the weekly Overwatch news. So Overwatch news. This is also coming from IGN, from Hope Corrigan. Overwatch has revealed that Soldier 76 is gay and is a member of the LGBTQ community, joining the character of Tracer. The article states, Blizzard has released a new Overwatch short called Bastet, which reveals a small piece of information confirming original roster member Soldier 76 is a LGBTQ character. Announced on the official Overwatch Twitter account, the 14-page story features heroes Anna and Jack Morrison, Soldier 76, meeting up for the first time after thinking the other are dead. The pair strike a deal to take on an evil organization in Egypt and reminisce about the past. During the preparation, Soldier 76 pores over some old photographs. In one, Anna recognizes his former lover, Vincent. Anna asks Jack if he still holds a candle for Vincent, but Jack denies it, saying, quote, Vincent deserves a happier life than the one I could give. We are also treated to a look at the new Bastet Anna skin, which is set to come out. The skin features the black and gold cat goddess mask shown in the short story. Anna wears it in the hope that it will become a guardian figure for the people of Egypt, who she feels responsible for. Lead writer on Overwatch, Michael Chu, has also since confirmed that Soldier 76 and Vincent are canonically gay from Twitter. Thanks for all the messages about Bastet. This is what the tweet says. Jack and Vincent were in a romantic relationship many years ago. Both identify as gay. So I think there's a lot of people who, maybe aren't, who are out, who don't like diversity in their games, who just want everyone to be straight and who they are and whatnot. But I'm all for extra diversity in games, and I feel like the fact that he is gay, I think that's good. It adds an extra layer to his character, and it doesn't change the core belief of who he is as a character in Soldier 76. And I'm all for Overwatch expanding their lore. And apparently this photo had appeared in a previous short, so they knew for a while that his character was like this. They're just spacing out, how they reveal stuff in their lore as they go forward. So I have no problem with this. I think it's great. I think it's awesome to see Overwatch expanding their lore and we learn more about characters, be that their origins, parts about their personality, their sexual orientation and stuff like that. I'm all for it. I'm all for more LGBTQ characters in gaming. So I have no problem with it. I think it's a great story. And then got two more quick stories before we finally bring an end to this podcast episode. PlayStation revealed they have now sold 91.6 million PlayStation 4s, dominating this console generation, basically, and into the end of 2018. So they are just shy of 100 million. For context, the best-selling console of all time is the PlayStation 2, I believe, at 150 million. So let me see, best-selling. I'm going to double-check that. Yep, looks like it's PlayStation 2. Yeah, the PlayStation 2 has sold over 155 million units, which was just more than the Nintendo DS. So to put it into context right now, the Wii U, or not the Wii U, the Switch, which granted has only been around for about a year or so, has only sold just under 23 million, and Microsoft has stopped revealing numbers for how many Xbox Ones they've sold. As far as where PlayStation 4 ranks all time, they are closing in on the Wii. PlayStation 4 currently sits in currently sits in 6th place all time in consoles sold. They are sitting in 6th at 91.6 million. 5th is owned by the Wii at 101.63 million. 4th place is held by the original PlayStation at 102.49 million. So PlayStation is closing in on both of those, just over and just under, just over like 10, 11 million for both of those. Then after that, it's actually a pair of handhelds that control third and second place. The Game Boy and Game Boy Color numbers are combined. So technically you could say PlayStation 4 is 5th all time if you want to separate those numbers. But combined, the Game Boy and Game Boy Color sold 118.69 million units. And in second is a Nintendo DS at 154.02 million. So PlayStation 2 at over 155 million sold is number one, just having barely beaten out the Nintendo DS by a few million units. So PlayStation 4 is doing quite well, and we'll see if they can keep this momentum going. There's still a couple more years before the next generation comes out, and then they still might be selling consoles for a few years after that. So who knows where it will end up ranking, but it's in a good spot to maybe even overtake a few of these names on the list, if not the PlayStation 2 itself. And then the final story in games I wanted to talk about is a good feel story. As I hit the mic again, I think it's like the third time I've had the mic this show. It has to deal with awesome games done quick. AGDQE. Their charity wrapped up. I believe wrapped up, but I'm going to take this article. It's written by Kate Gray on Kotaku. They ended, Awesome games done quick. The AGDQ. I don't know why I ended in E. But yeah, that has come and gone. It is over, and they raised a whopping $2.3 million for charity. The story from Kotaku and written by Kate Gray says, on Friday, the charity speedrunning stream hit $1 million for U.S. charity Prevent Cancer Foundation. Late on Saturday night, it hit $2 million, and the crowd went wild. Donations hit the 2 mil mark during a thrilling Super Mario Odyssey speedrun. As the run time ticked towards 3 hours, Twitch chat began a $5 donation chain, and the donation counter began to explode. The commentators were asking for money in all sorts of ways. Donate $5 if you love anime. If you think he's slowing down, donate $5. And describing certain donations in terms of what it could get them at McDonald's. That's actually pretty funny. The speedrunner Bayleaf, Pokemon name by the way, that is the fully evolved form of Chikorita, wasn't super keen on this last method because after 3 solid hours of Mario and being in the food-themed Lunch Kingdom at the time, he was probably very hungry. It ended up being a race against the speedrunner. Reached 2 million before Bayleaf gets to the darker side of the moon, a particularly difficult post-game level in Super Mario Odyssey that would mark the end of his run. The audience chanted, "Let's go Twitch chat," as the donations climbed past 1,950,000 and then began to count down from 1,980,000 by the thousand. Bailey hit 500 moons, his goal in the run, just after the donations hit 2 million in a wonderful moment of synergy. AGDQ might have its share of controversy, but moments like this are what it's really about. Bayleaf's run ended at 3 hours, 21 minutes, and 12.9 seconds, and watching him bounce around the dark side of the moon is almost as satisfying as hitting the 2 million mark. AGDQ ended as is traditional with a Super Metroid run. There is always a donation incentive with Super Metroid, save or kill the animals. This year, it was save the animals, so they can rest easy for another 6 months until Summer Games done quick. The final total for AGDQ 2019 was $2,395,553, surpassing last year's total by over $100,000. How about that? Gamers doing good things. Gamers doing good, awesome, amazing things for one another. And with that will do it for episode 74 of the Super Graphic Bros podcast. Thank you all so much for sticking it out with me here in this solo episode. We had some contributions from DMurph via email that I got to read out. We went through a lot. There was a lot of gaming news and a lot of wrestling news this week on top of a show that we had to talk about and review. So even for a solo show, this went really long. Thank you all so much for watching. Do not forget, you can watch this show live on Twitch at twitch.tv/L_Murpho. Be a part of the chat like Cam and Big Stupid were this week for this episode. You can also watch us back in VOD there at twitch.tv/L_Murpho. Also, you can catch us on VOD at YouTube at Real L Murpho, or no, youtube.com/LMurphoReal. I believe that's the right one. Just find it. Search for Super Graphic Bros. You'll find it. You can also find the audio version of the podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all different places where podcasts can be listened to and found. Search Super Graphic Bros. Do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Those reviews help us out a ton. We would really appreciate them. Thank you so much if you do submit a review. Also, do not forget to follow on Twitch and like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment as well over on YouTube. You can find me at L_Murpho on Twitter. You can find DMurph on Twitter at DMurph_42. Don't forget as well to check out our Discord server. We like to send out messages when we go live on both Discord and on Twitter. So check out the Discord server. Link to the Discord server, link invite is in the on the channel page on Twitch. It is in the show notes in the audio version, and it is in the video description on YouTube. There's also 2 Super Graphic Bros channels in the Discord server where you can give predictions for upcoming shows for WWE, or sometimes if we do a New Japan thing, we'll do New Japan predictions as well. You get a shout out if you get the most predictions out of all of the listeners who submit their predictions, or if you tie or beat myself or DMurph. You can also give feedback there as well, questions, concerns, trivia, comments, corrections, any of that stuff, you can submit it into that channel on the Discord server, or you can email us at supergrabbros@gmail.com. And that'll do it for this episode. Big Stupid, I appreciate you sending me a Kayfabe News column, but I actually did my research this time and found a Kayfabe News article of the episode that I will read the headline of myself. There were a few that were a little iffy, but I found one that I actually liked because it harkens back to Hogan appearing on Raw and doing the nice thing for Mean Gene. But I found it funny because as all of you notice, there is that bandana that he has and that stuff that comes out of the back of his head that's supposed to look like hair but doesn't. And so Kayfabe News leaned into that with the article, and I quote, "Scientists baffled by mysterious hair-like matter dangling from Hogan's bandana." Thank you all so much for listening or watching. This has been episode 74 of the Super Grab Bros podcast. Until we see you guys again, peace, deuces, the deucey deuce. Laters. And don't forget, next week, it's the weekend before Royal Rumble. We'll be doing Royal Rumble predictions. Don't forget it. Peace, deuces. Hopefully see you guys then. Bye. Bye now. Bye. Bye.
Shut up and sit down.